Hey everyone, I wanted to do a recording for you to explain this poem because I figured it would be a little bit easier than typing it. Anyways, I'll just start by reading the poem to you. Some keep the Sabbath going to church. I keep it staying at home, with a bobolink for a chorister and an orchard for a dome. Some keep the Sabbath in a surplice. I just wear my wings, and instead of tolling the bell for church, our little sexton sings. God preaches, a noted clergyman, and the sermon is never long. So instead of getting to heaven at last, I'm going all along. So the first thing that's interesting about this poem is that it doesn't have a title, and this is very typical of Emily Dickinson's poems. Um, we usually just give the first line as a title just to keep ourselves straight. So that's why I've given it a title. Some keep the Sabbath going to church. But anyways, I'll talk to you a little bit about the poem. In the first line, she's saying, "Well, some people they spend their Sundays going to church." And in her next line, she says she doesn't go to church; she stays at home. But she's not staying inside her house. Instead, you can tell from these next two lines that she's actually spending her Sundays outside among the trees. And instead of having, a formal choir, she's got bobolinks, which, as you probably saw below, are a bird. So she's outside, she's listening to bird song. That's how she's spending her Sunday. So the next stanza here, she talks more about how some people spend their time. She says some people keep the Sabbath in a surplice. Some people dress up for Sunday. She says, I just wear my wings. Now, she's not actually putting wings on. These are like metaphorical wings. And she's saying with these wings that she is just as holy staying at home in her backyard than someone who goes to church. And she says, instead of church bells and all of that stuffy church stuff, she just has, again, more of that bird song. Okay? So then in the final stanza, she says, God preaches, a noted clergyman. And that's a bit of an understatement. Okay? God isn't a famous priest, right? He's not a famous sermonizer like Jonathan Edwards. God is God. And she says, I don't have to listen to some person at the front of the church. I'm just listening to God speaking directly to me through nature. And the best part is, the sermon is never long. It's not a multi-hour thing. It's quick. And the last two lines, I think, are the most important part of the poem. She says, instead of getting to heaven at last, I'm going all along. She really doesn't see heaven as a final destination, as kind of like at the beginning of the year when we were talking about Puritans. Their end goal was live a good life so you could finally get to heaven. She's saying instead of getting to heaven at last, she's living heaven every single day by being out there in nature. All right. Thanks very much for listening, guys.